Hello everyone, welcome to our first joint webinar with CryptoDen and Collective Shift. So we're going to look at technical analysis and fundamental research that Collective Shift do. So we've got a new partnership coming up. So this is one of their first webinar where we're going to go through a few things. So we've got Matt here. So Matt's this is the head of research at Collective Shift, and he's going to kick us off with what he's looking at and what's his process when he starts going through coins. Then shortly after, Cass is going to just technical analysis. Over to you, Matt.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks, Ads. And yeah, looking forward to this series with Cass. We'll team up and provide best of both worlds with both sorts of analysis, technical side of things, which Cass will cover, and then yeah, fundamentals from going through individual sort of coins and tokens. So every week we'll probably have a handful that we'll go through, as well as sort of some questions that might come in throughout the week that we'll get to sort of on the next sort of week's episode. But for this week, look, I think there's no better place to kick things off, Cass, with Bitcoin. Like I've just seen it in the past few hours, head over 30,000 for the first time in probably 10 months or so. So I'm keen to sort of like kickstart with like getting into sort of some TA of Bitcoin on some different time frames. And then we'll sort of, I think ETH is sort of definitely sort of just warrants one off our first sort of kickoff episode. And then we'll get into some more ones that I'm watching for sort of some more short-term sort of price volatility. For you traders out there, I think a handful that I'll go through are going to be seeing some strong price action coming up due to a few reasons, which I'll get to. But yeah, Cass, happy to sort of, load up your screen and we can sort of, I'll hand it over to you to maybe share some sort of TA in terms of the Bitcoin price, which is getting people pretty excited today.
It is, isn't it?
Let's see your magic, Cass. What's Bitcoin going to do? Can we all quit our jobs yet from Bitcoin or what?
No, not yet. Okay, so I am going to zoom out a bit. I've got a fresh chart here and I'm going to look at basically some key levels, some fib levels, and we'll go from there. So this is my first support line down here around 15, 16K. So this area here of interest will interest me. We are approaching it. I will just do a quick fib level from this high to the bottom and see where we're at. So right now, from this high to the bottom, we're hitting, well, we've hit the 886. So it will be interesting to see if we hold here, or we keep pushing through. But this is one area that I'm going to be watching, especially for the daily close. I know I'm on the 3-day, so I will just go now down to the daily. So yeah, this area is of interest for me. And as I said, we're at the 886. I will just put a line in through there. So I'll get rid of this fib level, all these fibs. And now I'll go from this high to the bottom. I like to match up my key levels with fib levels. And then anyone that knows me knows I'm a pattern trader. So if I can find a pattern, generally that's the first thing I see. And I love patterns. So this high to the bottom, I do like area through there. It's more, just put this one up here. Yes, I've got some levels there not matching up with those fibs, but what we did have here is, I'll go now down to the 4 hour. Sorry. So if we break above this and retest it, would be good for long. But if we reject here, especially on like the daily, if we get a hammer or tweezer tops or something like that, for me would be looking to short. At the moment, because we're having a push up, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to jump in and try and catch the trade. But as you can see, we had this sort of triangle forming. Which ended up breaking out. We're hitting a level of resistance at, 30K for me. So it will be interesting to see how we close and so forth over the next 24 hours.
So how does the resistance go at being at the level of 30K exactly as well? Does that make any difference?
Well, you can actually, sorry, hang on.
So you're not bullish just yet. We're just at a key area, you think?
Yeah, we're at a key area. Like I'm not going to, I actually like to sort of draw zones as well.
Yep.
So you're not relying on one line to determine whether you're going to long or short. I'll just get my zone a bit better.
That's what, first time since June last year.
Okay.
Yeah, it is.
It still shows there's life in there,
Yeah, there is.
So when would you become bullish, Cass? What would need to happen before you start thinking, okay, we might be going into a bull market?
I'd like the CCI to move down a bit. I think we're up the top here, and after, I know this is daily, so it doesn't look as big, but after a push like this, I would like a bit of a pullback. So saying this is the top that we're going to get to today.
Yep.
So I'm not saying it is because I can't, but just say it is and do a little fibs here. Works out well if we actually pull back to this like 29K line, and I'd be looking, could look for longs there, especially if we, I'll go down to 12 hour. Give me a bit more data.
So you're waiting for a pullback down and then a final big push up and go through all those levels. Is that your ideal situation?
Ideally, but we'll have to wait to see. Well, we might keep pushing, I'm not going to do anything while, like, there's still 9 hours for this candle. But just say we're going to keep going. Bitcoin's looking really strong. We have a slight pullback to around here. Okay, go to the 4 hour. Make it a bit bigger. So if we had a pullback to this area, so higher low still, somewhere in there, and then go again. So that's what I'd like us to do. But yeah, we are at a key point, and yeah, just have to wait and see if we keep going up or if we have a rejection. Just go back to the daily. Look left, always look left. See where we've been before, see some key levels. If it is, you know, a bit messy like this, I do like to go to the line chart just to find some levels or zones. So next,
It's surprising how little time Bitcoin has spent around like 29 to 31K, like in its whole lifetime. It's not much at all.
Yeah. Sort of be looking for this 34K if we break this level. 34K as around the next area to look at. Zone. But okay, so that's if we keep going up. If we go back down, not keep going down, if you go back down, I'd be looking for around 24K. I know there's a gap down here too, which they do like to fill up the gaps. So, and I know that there was a gap, it's only tiny, but it was created over the weekend. But it's probably not even, if price action comes back down here, that will get filled. But there's still a gap down here that I'm watching that I would really like to get filled. But at the moment, break up, retest, looking for longs. If we reject, you can like trade down to this trend line and then see what happens. But yeah, that's what I'm seeing at the moment.
Yeah, no, good stuff, Cass. Thanks for that. If you did just pull up on the chart there as well, just BTCD or BTC dominance, it'd be a great sort of just, you know, visualization, I think, for viewers out there who are maybe just, you know, wondering, you know, what's even going on, like from a fundamental level in terms of Bitcoin. It's probably one of something that's been like very noticeable to me over the past, call it since the middle of March. This has been sort of a story, you know, I don't think too many people are appreciating just yet, but Bitcoin dominance. So that just measures, you know, what is the market cap of Bitcoin as a proportion of, you know, the combined market cap of all the cryptocurrencies out there. And it's, you know, back in probably the last bull market, like in like probably 2017, 18, it got up towards about 70 to 80%. It's really plummeted in recent years. But, you know, from a narrative standpoint, since all these, namely the bank collapses in probably early March, probably since that time, you can go to about March 11. I have down here is when, you know, Silicon Valley Bank, you know, collapsed. Since that day, we've gone up, you know, 5.5 percentage points, which is actually, you know, it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's actually like extremely significant in the space of what, 3-4 weeks. To move by 5.5 percentage points is significant when you're talking about the whole asset class being about 1.2 trillion. So to really summarize it, I think the big daddy's back in terms of Bitcoin. It's sort of a reason why this I think, as Cass has sort of gone through, it's extremely important to be watching the price action of Bitcoin. And then I think that will in turn sort of like lead us to where the profits then get rolled into the altcoins, as we see happen every time. And that's what's probably different from my perspective in terms of this rally compared to probably what happened in like January, for example.
Yeah. It's yeah, I agree.
Yes. Yeah. So like I think with Bitcoin sort of getting in the headlines a lot, people like, this sort of self-custody sort of asset, similar to gold, which has also been rallying recently. I think that's where sort of crypto can sort of gain some traction over the coming months. And then as you sort of go down the list, you would then probably go to the likes of, Ethereum, even XRP, those sort of large market cap sort of tokens and coins that you would then expect to sort of see some strong price volatility. Particularly if this run continues for Bitcoin, I would like be a lot more confident of there being sort of this follow-on sort of rally for altcoins, which I know the traders love in particular, because there's really strong volatility, I suppose, in both directions during those periods.
Yeah. And there's a lot of money to be made in the alts, trading
them.
And
absolutely.
Yeah.
Particularly, I think when you get a confirmation of sort of those higher highs for Bitcoin in particular, Cass, as you sort of spoke to there. Like, I think if that happens, big opportunities for traders like in the alts. So I think it just makes sense to move on to ETH. And can you just remind me, Cass? I've followed like trade TA, loosely over the years, but I know that crossover of the yellow and the red is a significant from a long-term perspective, like the moving averages. Could you just maybe break down sort of what that event was? My head's in the way, but where it crossed over to the right, the yellow and the red, yellow and the blue sort of crossed over there. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that one.
What's the significance of that again?
Okay, so the blue line is my 50-day moving average, and my yellow is the 200. So generally on the daily, I'm on the 3 days, so I will go down to the daily. But when the blue line, the 50, is above the yellow line, it's bullish. When they cross, they cross and the blue's above the yellow, that's a golden cross. And then they cross, so the blue and the yellow, and then the yellow goes on top, that's death cross, what people call a death cross. And then it should be bearish until they cross again.
Yeah, it's a pretty bearish name, to be fair.
Yeah.
The death cross. So has it actually come back, or just about, or recently? Yeah. So that's probably just another signal. Like, obviously, in and of itself, it's not extremely important, but it's just probably another like data point you can look to, I suppose.
So when did that cross, Cass? Yeah,
so that crossed
okay.
roughly the 18th of Feb.
Yep.
So crossed bullish. To be honest, I find, because I'll show you something up here. So it crossed here bearish on the 25th of January. But as you can see, we've had a huge move down already. So our high was up here at nearly 5,000. And before they crossed, we got back down to pretty much, 2,200. So for me on the daily, it is a lagging indicator.
Sure.
Some coins swap and change all the time. So when I get a coin like that, I don't pay as much attention to it. I like it when it's nice and drawn out and quite a big gap, not crossing all the time. But in saying that, I actually like to look at the lower time frames. So that cross, what did I say, was the 25th of January?
Yes. Yeah.
So on the 12-hour, So the 25th, or was it February? Oh no, 25th of January. Yeah, crossed down here when we hit around 22. So on the 12-hour, it actually crossed up here on the 7th of January, up at around 4K. So I liked, and I'll even go down to the 4-hour. So 12-hour, it crossed, and see how it hasn't been crisscrossing all the time. So that's still good for me. And I'll go to 4-hour. So this is where I wouldn't take any notice of it. So see how we've crossed. So because
pretty
we're
noisy.
it's noisy, and so the 12-hour I take note of on this chart, and obviously the daily. But if you wait for like the death cross on the daily, you would have missed a whole lot of action.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, thanks for that breakdown. Like with the example, that helps like immensely. Thanks for that.
No, all good. I did just forget what I was going to say. That's good. So I'll just find some levels through here.
Yeah, sure.
I do. Obviously, Bitcoin and ETH can be very similar to each other. One generally leads the market for me. So if you like, they can be sort of going in the same direction, but then you might get something bearish on one and not on the other, or bullish on one and not the other, and you can sort of take the lead from there. Okay. Go down to the daily. We sort of have been in this range too for quite some time. It is a big range, what, $1,000 range, but we have been in there for a while. So very similar to BTC. If I do some fibs from that high to the bottom down here, we're at the 886. So, but something you will notice with Ethereum, so with Bitcoin, we were just pushing up, whereas Ethereum, we've pushed up, come down, and we're pushing up again. Daily. Once again, I would like a pullback. Just move. So obviously when you do trend lines and support and resistance lines, if you start on, say, the 3-day, like I did just then, they probably won't match up on the daily and the 4-hour. So you can readjust, or you can just put a text box in and call it settings, and you could call it daily resistance. But then you know which, or you can color code them, whatever you want. So we do have a trend line here that is valid. It's got the 3 touches. 886 here on the daily. If we do, if this is our local high, would be good. See, I would like it if this candle, green candle, turned red, got a bit more of a tail on it, and closed as a hammer. Double topping for me, and I would like a nice pullback. See how the 618 and the 786 actually lines up with this trend line. So a pullback into here would be nice. Depends how bullish the bulls are. We might not get here, or we might, they say, you know, you've had your fun, we've had our fun, we're going to dump on you now. So so yeah, it will be interesting to see how this candle closes. You know, 21 hours to go, so still a bit of time. But the candle before closed green, so that's a good sign. So with this, back on 12-hour, you know, break above this zone. So there is the zone through there. So break above, bullish, rejection. You know, look for rejection signs, and then a pullback. That's what I'm seeing on ETH at the moment. Have you got anything else to add?
Yeah, I think you know, in addition to that, I think, you know, people trading ETH should be mindful of probably April 12th, probably April 12th sort of UTC time, later, like pretty much before midnight. So you know, still a bit to go, probably more towards 2 days, probably, you know, Melbourne and you know, Brizzy time. However, I think I would expect some volatility around that time, because that's when, you know, Ethereum's going to have its next major upgrade, which is you know, it's called the Shapala network upgrade. But really the takeaway is it's going to sort of, you know, let these stakers who have been staking ETH all the way back earliest since December 2021, they'll finally be able to withdraw the stake that they've been like earning as rewards, you know, for some of them for multiple years now. There's a lot of speculation over what the price implications of that are going to be. So the headlines make it seem pretty bearish in terms of, oh, now you're just going to get a bunch of stakers dumping on the market. I don't really think that will be the case, for a number of reasons. But
that was going to be my question. Do you reckon they'll just?
Yeah, I think.
Or sell what they've made, you know?
Yeah, I think like initially you would like sort of, you know, you're inclined to think that, but yeah, the longer I've sort of, you know, been thinking about it and talking to people over the last like few months, I'm at the end of the day, like I actually think the price like effects won't really be. I'm expecting it to be pretty flat and like sort of surprising like the bears, to be honest. However, I'm pretty confident there will be some like strong volatility for ETH this week. Sort of the main reason why I don't think it'll be like a serious like dump of like ETH's price is like just because of like, you got to think of like the people who are like staking ETH, they're typically like pretty diehards who are like really don't have anything else to do with their cash other than keep it in ETH. I think that's one thing. Number two, there's a queue, like there's an automatic queue that's like baked into sort of the sort of staking, you know, mechanism on Ethereum, where only so many people can you know, withdraw at once. So like, in other words, it's not going to be like an instant, you know, dump of ETH or people, you know, rushing for the exits to cash out, because it's, you know, it's not even possible to do that. Number three, people have been staking for all these years. They've had the option to sell, you know, via these liquid staking projects, which are, you know, Lido and Rocket Pool are probably the two best examples. You know, they've had the ability to use those derivatives and in a way to cash out. And it's also probably like a major factor as well, is that it's actually surprised me when I was looking at sort of the average, you know, the average sort of like profit or loss that these stakers are sitting on. So in other words, like, hey, when they decided to stake their ETH, what was the price of ETH at that time? And it's a surprisingly high amount are actually sitting in the red, as in they decided to stake their ETH you know, at a time when ETH's price was higher than what it is today. Which was sort of surprised me when you think about how long it's been since some of these people have been staking their ETH. But again, like I think they'd be more inclined to sell if they were, you know, to take some profits, things like that. But a lot of them are still, you know, ultimately still down, like compared to when they staked. I think also that's also like a factor why I don't think it's going to be like a serious dump, but I'm expecting volatility short term for sure.
Yep. So even a pullback to this trend line would be good. And then if we push up from there, will be interesting though if we triple top or if we just blast through.
Yeah, definitely. I think Ethereum also like fundamentally has probably like a narrative battle going on at the moment with Bitcoin, as we covered just 10 minutes ago or so, like with Bitcoin just sort of taking all the headlines in terms of just the crypto market. This is sort of the next probably catalyst for Ethereum, and even then it's not really that worth of like mainstream headlines or anything like that. It's not really that like that user friendly or that easy to explain to people and for them to sort of appreciate the significance of it. So I really think for the end of the rest of 2023, I still think it's sort of going to struggle to like sort of just get into sort of the mind share of the public, things like that, when you're comparing it to something like Bitcoin. So that's just also something to keep in mind when Cass was sort of talking about how one sort of leads the other. I think ETH sort of really had a strong 2022 in that respect, but again, just something to note when you're sort of trading ETH or just monitoring ETH sort of price. I think it's going to be following BTC for a while, I think, especially like the coming months.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool.
So
but
that's it for me for Bitcoin and ETH.
Nice.
I'll stop sharing.
Good.
Over to you, Matt.
All right, thanks, Cass. I think, in these weekly sort of episodes, we want to be, obviously, other than BTC and ETH, covering sort of altcoins. I'm going to try to focus on ones with sort of like short-term catalysts because I think it's a good sort of overlap with the traders. You can expect some sort of short-term volatility, and then fundamentally, I think it'll help out, crypto investors or medium to long-term investors. I think it'll still help you, put you on the right direction in terms of even just shortlisting ones to have a look at and things like that. Probably the first one that I had shortlisted for today was Avalanche. So sort of really like high level summary. It's essentially just trying to do what Ethereum can do. So we call it smart contract blockchain, layer 1 blockchain. And look, it's in competition with Ethereum, and probably I would say Avalanche's closest competitor would be Solana. When I'm picturing the sort of the smart contract blockchain ecosystem, I would have ETH up the top. I would have a big margin down, and then I would probably be putting Avalanche and Solana sort of on equal pegging, quite a bit behind Ethereum still. I want to put it on people's radars because I think the market is sort of almost like just written them off completely. I think people underestimate how sort of deep pocketed these sort of foundations are that are sort of like, stewarding the chains and like helping them get set up and like build the ecosystem. I still think, they've still got quite a bit to go in terms of, issuing grants and like encouraging developers to come over, build on their chains. Like, yes, we saw in March for Avalanche's case, we saw them like run into some hurdles in terms of just like network uptime. They had sort of degraded performance for, a few hours, but again, made the crypto headlines, spooked sort of investors and traders and whatnot. And I think, it got patched, yes. And all things considered, it wasn't sort of a major sort of network issue. But the main reason sort of I want to bring it up today is because I think, where are we? April 11 at the moment. I think at the start of May, I think it's May 3rd to 5th, they've got sort of Avalanche's biggest sort of annual conference. That's Avalanche Summit in Barcelona. Like a bunch of different speakers, different panels. These events, I've at least historically, like in my 5+ years working in crypto, you sort of see a run up and sort of the anticipation build. That old like buy the rumor, sell the news sort of mantra that we hear a lot. It's a bit of a cliche. Yeah, it's a bit of a cliche, but it's kind of a cliche for a reason, like because it's happened so many times in the past. And
For
I think
sure.
as we were sort of talking about with the BTC and those key levels earlier, I think importantly, if BTC is able to find support or even go up again higher, I think the likes of AVAX, the ticker of sort of Avalanche's native token, could really be in for like a period of outperformance. They've got like, in addition, around this sort of conference, what I really like about it is there's sort of other fundamental news sort of driving the narrative and driving attention towards Avalanche. I think their next major upgrade, big network upgrade that they've been working on basically since Avalanche launched on mainnet, that's also coming up pretty soon for its mainnet deployment. Like they had a successful testing recently on their final testnet. So that upgrade is just basically, to really dumb it down, is just going to make Avalanche cheaper to use and allow you to do a lot more build different apps on Avalanche and whatnot more easily. So I don't know. I think people have, as I said, written them off. Got a lot of sort of short-term catalysts, and all the while, like before I would even share something like Avalanche, I wouldn't sort of do so without first checking to see if there's actual sort of usage or activity on the network. Because all of what I just said could be pointless if Avalanche was just down only in terms of like network users or like gas, like fees paid on Avalanche. Promisingly, that's actually been, it surprised me when I went and had a look. It's surprisingly actually still performing like pretty well. They've had some growth in sort of just daily users, amount of fees paid on Avalanche in like, well, year to date up until April. And that was surprising. So it's all sort of coming together, I think, for Avalanche, particularly over the next month or so.
Okay. And then after the month, what do you expect? Like after the event's done, do you expect sort of to chill out or probably sort of drop a little bit? Or, obviously there's lots of announcements that I assume will come from their conferences. So after the conference, what do you sort of expect?
Yeah, I think, immediately after or the next month after, I would be pretty confident Avalanche would sort of underperform, well, like Solana, even like underperform ETH and maybe even Bitcoin. And of course, a lot will hinge on what happens, with BTC and ETH going into like May, June, July, etc. But you're right, Ads. That's typically sort of, the same sort of behavior pattern that we see. I don't think there's any reason to sort of fight that. I think it's pretty likely that's what will happen.
Cool.
So some trading opportunities coming up on AVAX. But Avalanche,
What's the chart showing us, Cass?
Sorry?
What's the chart showing us on AVAX? Is it coming up to the conference? Is it starting to look a bit more bullish? Has it been an uptrend? What's it doing? I'll put your chart back on the screen. Here we go.
We are coming up to a resistance level. Hang on. But for me, there hasn't, but besides this push up, been ranging a bit.
Yeah.
So to speak.
Is there a potential wedge coming up there as well?
There should be.
Yeah. Wonder if that's carrying us up, that news, we enough to push through, or just going to find out.
We will. But so similar to BTC and ETH. So for me personally, would have been obviously good to get in down here.
Yeah.
So down here, we had a hit to the trend line, hits the 200 EMA. There was, don't know if, bit of a wedge there. So that would have been ideal. So with that news coming out, which is awesome to know, Matt.
You're right.
We do actually, so we will be expecting some bullish moves over basically the next month for AVAX. So waiting for the pull, so don't jump in now, but waiting for the pullbacks to get in. If we do come up here and triple top, I don't really like that, but would have to wait for whether we hold this trend line or if we break down and we keep in this big range before going up again. But you know, forming this triangle, and yeah, just wait for. I will just do little fibs from here. So yeah, I'd wait for us to finish our push up, pullback, and so with trading, there's riskier trades and safer trades. Safer trade is waiting for the breakout, retest, and then push up, or break down, retest, and then keep going down. Some traders will trade within the triangle. Like I personally will trade like that, but always protecting myself. So you can either wait for the end of the triangle and see where we go, or wait for the push up or the breakdown. But seeing there's news coming out in May, you would expect us to keep going up, unless something drastic happens to Bitcoin, I would say.
Beautiful. What else are you looking at, Matt? You got any last final little hot tips for us?
Yeah, certainly. I think with that, you know, big news over at Ethereum within the next, probably 36-ish hours, I think you're going to continue to see this has sort of been, it's been a very strong, year-to-date trend, but I am pretty strong of the opinion that it will continue. This is sort of the category of liquid staking tokens. So liquid staking, basically, I kind of referenced it earlier, but you've got your staked ETH in Ethereum, for example. You're able to then, that requires 32 ETH to set up your own, node and validator and whatnot. Very sort of, very sort of high cost for your average person. So these liquid staking, platforms, they allow you to just, put in, a less than 32 ETH, significantly less. And they allow you to still, earn rewards on that staked ETH. And, you pay a small fee of that to sort of the project that's running these liquid staking protocols. So, there's a big one, sort of Australian, sort of, predominantly sort of Australian core team and following. That's Rocket Pool. They've been sort of a long-term, builder in this space. They're sort of decentralization first, like in sort of their values and whatnot, which has sort of seen them lose significant sort of market share to one that is, compared to them, more centralized, and that one is called Lido. So the ticker for that is LDO. The ticker for Rocket Pool is RPL. And I don't know, I just expect sort of the narrative and growth of the liquid staking category to continue throughout 2023 and beyond. Year to date, as I said, the LDO and RPL have significantly sort of outperformed Bitcoin and Ethereum or Ether. And, all of these liquid staking protocols, so that, Rocket Pool and Lido, as well as some others, are sort of having to upgrade their protocol after this big, announce a big upgrade happens for Ethereum, in the next 36 or so hours. Rocket Pools has a sort of big upgrade coming for about roughly a week after this upgrade. So I think that is down for April 18th, I believe. That one's called Atlas, is that upgrade, and essentially April 18th, it's basically going to let the average person put in 8 ETH to set up what they call a mini pool. Previously, you had to do 16 ETH to set up a mini pool with Rocket Pool. Yes, you need to put down some other RPL as collateral in terms of setting up a mini pool. So I think it has good fundamentals from just a token utility and a value sink, sort of in terms of the supply of RPL being staked to Rocket Pool. But then I also think it'll sort of ride sort of the tailwinds of this narrative from just like a fundamental perspective, because you've got the likes of ETH, which only has about 15% of its supply staked. Compare that to something like Solana or Cardano, which has about 70 to 80% of their supply in staking contracts. I still think ETH is just going to continue 2024, 25 and beyond. Will continue to see a rise in percentage of supply that is staked. And for your average person, we're just a lot more likely to use liquid staking protocols, which ultimately just feeds back into the value of these tokens. So I suppose that's a strong long-term sort of outlook and thesis of mine. Short term, I still think we'll see some price volatility for the likes of LDO and RPL, particularly RPL, probably shorter term, because that's April 18th when that upgrade goes live. And for Lido, they're upgrading to V2, which has a number of other benefits, but I'll just skip that for the time being. The LDO sort of price volatility I would expect later in the second quarter, because their date isn't yet confirmed, but I think it's likely to happen in May when they upgrade to Lido V2. So just a category that I'm personally very confident on, and short term we'll also see some more volatility for you traders out there.
And do you like those coins from a fundamental, say a long-term hold?
Yeah, those are probably, that category is probably an uncommon, a category, one of the few, I suppose, that I'm actually confident on long-term that would even outperform like BTC or ETH. With these sort of narrative or category sort of specific trades or investments, you would, at least for me, my style, I would personally want them to be, at least I have a reason why I think they would outperform, because otherwise, hey, it's why not just invest in BTC or ETH? As I said, LDO token, has a lot of reasons to hold. It's mainly a sort of a governance token for the time being, but I think in the future they could, give the fees a part of that to sort of the LDO holders once I think there's some more regulatory clarity. And then RPL in particular has sort of some main sort of drivers of demand, particularly the need to sort of what they call bonding your RPL to the Rocket Pool protocol, and you sort of lock it up in addition with putting down some ETH as collateral. And that gives you the right to then set up a Rocket Pool mini pool, is what they call it, to make it more accessible to people. So I think it actually has some really solid fundamentals and sort of the reason for existence. I think that's the thing people sort of forget. Why does this token even need to exist? And that's a category, one of the few, as I said, that I think actually needs to exist and has a decent chance of outperforming in the long term.
Nice.
Yeah, it's good. It's always got a real world use case. That's always a good thing.
Yeah, there's not many of them left, ads. Oh, there's a lot of promise though.
Awesome to know. Thanks, Matt.
Oh, good. I know we are coming up on the hour. I'm not sure if you want to get into the RPL or LDO price action cast, but I would assume it's pretty much consistent with Avalanche and whatnot. But that's just something even to jot down. Any of you watching this, jot down April 18th for RPL and probably in the month of May, second half of May for for LDO I'd be watching.
Yeah. Is it on many exchanges, or is it, you know, how accessible is the token? Because I think it, obviously from a technical point of view, it might be like a bit of a low cap.
Yeah, LDO is, compared to RPL, I would say LDO is a lot more like liquid and accessible on exchanges. I'm just looking right now. It's on Binance, Coinbase, OKX, Kraken. So yeah, pretty solid availability there. And yeah, I think RPL comparatively isn't as accessible, but it's still, at the end of the day, rank 58 on CoinGecko right now. So it certainly would be, you know, somewhat available. Binance has got it, and yeah, some other
Yeah. So
notable ones as well.
What I will do with those two, I'll find out which exchange has the most data, and I'll do a chart on both of them, and I'll put them in the Crypto Den platform.
Nice.
All right. Thanks for your time, Matt. We'll wrap it up. And as usual, thanks again, Cass. Good charts and good insights on what's happening in the market. A bit of sync going on there, and we'll see how it plays out over the next month or so, hey? Especially all these events coming up, and see what Bitcoin does at around this 30K level, if we get another big push or if it's a big pullback. So I think no matter what happens, we'll just see a sink in the market. Whatever Bitcoin and Ethereum is going to do, all these alts are going to do anyway.
Yeah, exactly. All
right.
So we'll be on again, but we'll be recording next Monday around lunchtime. So the recording should be up, you know, not too long after that.
Beautiful. All right. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Ads. Thanks, Cass. Thanks for watching, everyone.